Good morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia, and welcome to Healing from Complex PTSD. My name's Linda. I'm your certified complex trauma coach and supervisor, and I'm sorry, it's been a couple of months since I've recorded. As I mentioned earlier, I'd had COVID earlier this year, and it's so true that when we get COVID, if there's underlying things, it brings them to the forefront. Okay. And I just want to give you a quick insight into what happened. And then we're going to go on to examples of what spiritual bypassing is, because it can be so prevalent and interrupt our recovery journey. So just bear with me. I got COVID in February sometime. Then I had about 3 weeks of not feeling well, and then the dry infected sinuses became worse and the pain was huge. And I had about 8 lots of antibiotics to recover out of the pain of it all. And then I was doing okay, got back to gym, got back to my exercise at home. And then it just, my health went downhill again. And I was in absolute excruciating pain one Saturday night, and in my sinuses. And so I started Googling what to do, what healthy things can you do, what natural things can you do to treat dry infected sinuses, because I've believed for years, many years, that that's what the problem was. So as I was Googling all the natural things you can do for the pain, I reached a point where the pain was so bad it was either find something at home or I'm going to ER, because I literally couldn't cope with the pain, and I'd tried every natural remedy possible that I had at home and medical as well. So as I was reading through what to do, at the bottom of one it said that it actually can be linked to an autoimmune disease called Sjogren's. And as I read through the list of things that came with this autoimmune disease, I sat there gobsmacked, because it was me to a T. So Sjogren's essentially is about so many dry parts that we can see or notice, and then it dries up, goes into drying up your organs and all sorts of stuff. So I don't want to put you off. I just wanted to let you know that I've been working with it. And what happened was I actually had the pain medication in my drawer from something that had happened to me a few years back. So I took the pain medication that they recommended, and I don't advise anyone else to do this, of course, because I know myself really, really well, and I know what is probable and what I can deal with. So within the first 12 hours, it had already started to reduce the pain, so I took another tablet. And then by the time 24 hours was up, I knew that this was what the problem was, this autoimmune disease. So for me, I go to the dentist and they tell me that my gums are drying. My legs have dry skin. It develops dry skin all over my legs, where you can just scratch the dry skin off if I don't moisturize. My lips have been dry since forever, and nothing I do would stop them from being dry. And the list just goes on and on and on, to be honest. And I sat there and I went, wow. And of course, with it comes the tiredness, the sensitivity. So what I've been doing is working with my doctor, who's actually done my acupuncture for a number of years now, because she's been aware that without the acupuncture, I end up on antibiotics again. And I explained to her about the autoimmune disease. And then over the last few weeks, I've been managing it better, in that I'm aware that if my stress level gets too high, the pain will start to come. Like I can literally feel it coming in my face when it happens. And so then I begin to do things to get out of the stress so that I don't have to take the pain medication. Now, this wouldn't have been possible before, because I knew that I had the dry infected sinuses, but I didn't know, I couldn't feel what was going on. So ever since COVID, I've actually been able to feel what's happening in my face pain-wise, which I hadn't before. Which sounds a bit odd, but I mean pain as in the pain with the autoimmune disease. I thought that the infection was what was causing the pain previously. So now I've been changing a lot of my life around. I've been back to exercising slowly but surely. And we're going to be moving house soon. And so I'll get another treadmill. And really what I've learned throughout the last few months is how vital oxygen is as part of the process, part of the healing process. So if you're unsure about doing some movement of some nature, and focusing on your breathing and getting your breath in and out of your body, I advise you to do it for 4 weeks and then see how much better you feel. Because this is what I do. I go, oh, I'm feeling better. I don't need to do this anymore. And then I realise afterwards I stop doing it and I go downhill and I can't do as much as I was doing. So all this to say, thank you for your patience, thank you for your comments, and it has been a rough year as far as my health goes, but I am on the improvement side of it, and the acupuncture helps, and my daughter and granddaughter are now home as well, so that's been a big shift, and it's so wonderful to have them here and at home with all of us. So I'll talk more about that another time. But for today, I came across this information, and I don't often talk about my spiritual journey because I have a deep conviction that we all have a spiritual walk and it's going to look different for all of us, just like our complex trauma recovery. So I don't want to ever have somebody say, oh, well, I have to throw out what she's saying because my spiritual journey isn't like hers. None of our journeys are the same when it comes to spirituality. So when I came across spiritual bypassing, I kind of went, we need to know this. We need to understand that we can still have a spiritual walk, and we can identify when people are trying to minimize what we're experiencing in our recovery journey. And then there's the other side of it too, where we have to become aware of, are we minimizing our complex trauma recovery journey? And are we using spirituality as an excuse not to do something? And it can be a tightrope to walk because we all have a different understanding of it. So what I want for you today is to be able to sit with what we talk about, the examples, and know that for you, that even if you identify with something, it's going to open a door for you to take one next step into wellness. So here we go. And be kind to yourself along the way as well. Okay, so spirituality can have the ability to have us avoiding reality and what's happening in the world. You find that in a number of religions when they say, well, you're not relying on God enough. You don't have enough faith. You don't have a strong enough connection with God. And the other side of the coin is the opposite of all of that. And, well, when you've got God, you don't need to worry about the world. Okay, and it comes in a variety of formats, and I know that if you sit down and reflect on it, you'll know whether it fits for you or not. And the reality is we are both. We have our spiritual journey and we are part of this world. So the next one is deflecting any conversation that makes you feel uncomfortable or doesn't fit your spiritual ideals. And this is something that comes with emotional maturity. So I can even say this to my clients. I ask them what their spirituality is, what does it look like for them. I explain mine, and I explain how it just fits into however you interpret it as well. And I feel really, really comfortable having spiritual conversations with all different types of spirituality because of the belief that we're all walking each other home. And actually, talking of that, when I was younger and we went between a couple of different churches, one of the ministers said, oh, when you get to the end of life and, God's going to have that book and he's going to check off, your rights and wrongs and everything in between. I actually heard a pastor make a comment about this the other day about how the word judgment in Hebrew is actually defender. And it kind of just gave me this big sense of relief of, oh, wow, what they said decades ago is just not the truth. We're not here to be judged. We're here to be loved, and our love is defended. So I hope that helps ease someone's heart as well. There's so much to be learnt and so much to grow from now that we have so much more information. Another way of participating in spiritual bypassing is seeing yourself as the chosen one. Now, this can be challenging for us with complex trauma because, especially when we've been sexually abused, our abuser can make out that we are the chosen one above and beyond the parent or the parents, depending on, which angle they're coming from. And we go through life believing we're the chosen one, but not understanding what that means. And part of it is that it's a real sense of when I'm with that person, I'm the chosen one. But then it leaves us with this incredible emptiness and lack of understanding as a child as to what on earth is going on. We're all in this together. And it took me a lot of work around not just my mindset, but my thoughts and where they were coming from and understanding the depth of what sexual abuse does to you in this particular area in order to face within myself things that weren't actually true, okay? Another side of the chosen one is that we come to believe that somebody's coming to rescue us, okay? I'm chosen, and it's just this real sense that comes with it, that if I'm chosen, I don't have to bother doing anything because someone's coming to rescue me. They're not, and we're our own rescuer, and it's the best person to be as a rescuer. Another one is pretending to be happy when we're not. I know that in different walks of faith, you're supposed to walk around pretending to be happy, even when you're going through things like divorce, death, etc., etc. And it's not a healthy thing to be doing, okay? We need spaces where we can open up and be willing to talk about the reality of what's happening for us. And when we talk to people who actually care, they're kind and compassionate and empathic, okay? Pretending everything is all love and light when it's not. So I want you to think about how many times you come across people who are like exuding that everything is love and light and there's no problems. Now, that could be a case of that's just who they are and life has no road bumps for them. But the reality is it becomes a spiritual bypass when you know that they're just acting it out for the sake of acting it out and ignoring the reality of the pain that's going on in their life. Do we do that for ourselves? Maybe early on in a spiritual walk we might, but we soon realise that with complex trauma we can't afford to do that, okay? It's not real. It's not helping us become well. Using the term empath to make yourself a victim and blame other people for how you feel. I see this all over social media. Oh, I'm an empath. That's how it is. That's how I'm feeling. And that's because of other people and there's nothing I can do about it. The reality is with complex trauma, I listened to a lecture about this once and I was saying how we are already very sensitive people and we get born into these families where it requires us to become even more sensitive and more aware of the people around us. So we develop this skill set of being on hypervigilance, really, and in order to keep ourselves safe. So do we feel what other people are feeling? Yeah, of course we do. We see it coming 5 miles away. However, what we need to do is build new skill sets into our life so that even if we're feeling what's going on, we know that we can return to the core of who I am, and it's not about their emotions, aren't about me and my life. I'm aware that that's what you're feeling, but I'm not going to take it on. I'm not going to sit in there with the whole thought process and ruminate through it all and try and solve your problems. Sometimes I picture just grabbing a handful of energy or emotion and just giving it back to the person. I used to do that a lot in the beginning, just so that it was a conscious process of, this is not mine to take on or deal with. It is not mine to find a solution for, and it is not mine to sit in and ruminate over for days on end. Because if I do, then I lose days of my life that I want to use to become well and help other people. Thinking you're super spiritual because you've done a bunch of psychedelics. I've never done psychedelics, so I can only say that if that's happening for you, it's not a good thing, especially with complex trauma, because we have to build skills, strategies, understandings, heal the psychological wound, the neurological wound, and so on and so on. So psychedelics may help you feel more and feel more alive, but they're still not going to give you everything that you need to heal your brain and be able to function wholly in this life. Looking outside yourself with astrology instead of making your own decisions. Okay, so look to yourself and your internal self. Look to what is a trauma response, what isn't a trauma response, and it'll give you more than astrology ever will. Okay, looking for a sign rather than taking ownership that you create your reality. Well, don't wait for a sign, take a step and take a risk. And it's the hardest thing we do is take a risk in our recovery, because risk taking wasn't encouraged in childhood. Therefore, our brain's going, warning, 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 when we want to take a risk. So it takes a lot of courage to say, I want to take this risk and move into a different area or do a different thing. Even as a parent, I want to try a different way of communicating with my children, a different routine. Because we have complex trauma, it can shut us down. So we want to take ownership of, this is what I'm going to do, these are the steps I'm going to put in, and then I'm going to have a sense of humor around, that didn't work, but I'm going to take the bits that did work and I'm going to be really practical and put those into place and work out what else I can use as well. And I found with my kids when they were growing up that if I did this sort of thing, that it's actually in their lives, it's done a couple of things. First of all, they say, we're in this together. So I used to say that to them all the time, we're in this together. And now they do it as adults too. They say, we're in this together. And we do. We work really well as a family. So encouragement goes a long way when we're taking risks as well. New things to ask us are always a risk, okay? Thinking a guru, saint or teacher has the answers. Well, there's a lot of them around, and I can assure you that with complex trauma, you really need to be able to make your own decisions, okay? Someone may give you wisdom that you can implement, but it doesn't mean they're going to know the whole picture. And when you implement that wisdom, you also want to be able to go, okay, what else am I adding to this equation? What am I bringing to the table? Because otherwise we go through this process of still expecting other people to have answers. And that's one thing that I really am passionate about, especially writing and teaching the complex trauma certification. The people doing it are saying, we can take the information and make it our own. And it has to be that way. So if you're taking information from someone, make it your own, put it into place, mold it, form what you need out of that information and bring your experiences in, because without your experiences, it doesn't become your own. And building your own beautiful pathway too. Thinking if you just send prayers and meditate, the issue will go away. It really breaks my heart when people are like that. Their first comment will be, I'll pray for you. I know there are a lot of people who are genuine in their prayers. And sometimes sending prayers, love and light, whatever your language is all that we've got at that time. However, what we do is follow up. So if I say to a friend of mine that I'm praying for you, then they'll be the ones that I'm following up with to make sure they're okay as well. Sometimes we get prayer requests from around the world and we won't ever know what the answer is, or we may not be able to follow up. However, I'm talking about the people that are close to you and that you can follow up with, because then it becomes building a really healthy connection with someone. It's the care factor, a genuine care. Pointing fingers at someone else rather than taking responsibility. We can take responsibility for our own actions, our own ability to communicate, what we want in life, what we don't want in life. And I can honestly say that navigating those things as an adult becomes a whole different process with complex trauma. So I have to be willing to sit back and say, this isn't working for me, this is why it's not working for me, and I'm not setting out to change anybody else either. I'm taking responsibility for where my footsteps want to go, where I want to go in life, what I want. We come across many beautiful people in this world, and sometimes no is the answer that we need, because it doesn't fit, their piece of a puzzle doesn't fit our piece of a puzzle. And that doesn't make either of us any less than. It's simply, now that I can see who I am and what I want out of my life, that's where I need to move towards. And not everybody comes along for the whole journey. Okay? So I hope these examples help you sit and reflect. This meme is on all of my social media, which the links are down below on YouTube. And thanks for sitting with me today. And I hope if you can journal through this, speak to your trauma coach, speak to your therapist, your mental health practitioner, your peer support worker, whoever it is, because they can help give us insight and another piece of a puzzle that we get to examine when we're able to open up and see things from more than one point of view. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.